So I brought you on the show this morning, and I saw this article, and Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty does important work, and not only with various legal issues in which we have to, in frustration and expressing our frustration with our elected leaders and having to take them to court to get them to adhere to the law. Dr. Flanders has spent a lot of time, and boy, do I applaud you and salute you for this crunching numbers. I can do pretty well with a calculator, but it's not my forte. It's not what I prefer to do, and I really appreciate and respect and admire people that are able to do that. But it's frustrating because I know that in pretty much every other market, we do have price transparency, except for healthcare, which it's really long overdue.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So what we're trying to highlight in this report is the reality you just stated. When you go to the gas pump, you can see the price right there. When you go to the grocery store, you can see what the price is of eggs, and obviously it's been going up lately. But when we go to get healthcare, when we go to get a knee surgery or any of these procedures that we can actually sort of take time and plan, not necessarily talking about emergency care, it's almost impossible for folks to learn the price before they get the procedure. And then anyone who's been through this process knows you spend months waiting for the dreaded bill to come in the mail with really no idea what it's going to end up costing you. At the federal level, under the Trump administration, there was sort of an effort to improve things. There was an executive order that mandated that some of this pricing information become public. So far, we haven't seen states or hospitals and insurance companies in states fully complying with this. And our effort is to do something at the state level to ensure compliance and make sure folks can get the pricing information they need.
Do you think that there is a bipartisan support to do this, Will?
I think absolutely. When President Biden took over, you saw a lot of Trump's executive orders rolled back, but this is one that stayed in place. And I think across the board, when you poll people, this is a very bipartisan issue. It's not a Democratic or Republican issue that people fear the hospital bills coming in the mail. We all know healthcare is extremely expensive, and bringing some market forces to play so that people can shop around can work to lower prices and can, again, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or an independent, everyone wants to see those prices come down so that people can afford the medical care that they need.
Well, as is with every issue or any issue, there's got to be some opposition to this too, because I would imagine if there weren't, we would already see price transparency in healthcare. Who would you identify as the obstacles, or what would you identify as the obstacles in achieving this?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, like a lot of times what you see with reforms, whether it's occupational licensing or here with healthcare transparency, entrenched interests sort of stand to benefit from maintaining the status quo, from making sure that information doesn't get out there. So, in some areas of the country, we've seen, pushback from the hospitals, and, to the hospitals' credit, they'll say it's not fully the fault of hospitals, right? This is sort of a combined effort with hospitals and insurance companies. So one side effectively blames the other, insurance companies blame the hospitals, and that's sort of the morass we get into where nothing can actually get accomplished. But I think we're seeing sort of momentum in favor of this, as you've, sort of led into. It is becoming more of a bipartisan issue. And I think it behooves some of these entrenched interests to sort of work with reformers rather than stand in the way of something that's likely to be happening anyway.
Well, so where do we begin? I mean, is this something that we need to contact our legislators and rattle their cages, or do we need someone who's recently elected that can take this issue up? I mean, where does a person begin that's in favor of price transparency here in Wisconsin for healthcare?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think we will see a bill coming out during the next legislative session. And stay tuned when that comes out. But it's in the works, I believe, behind the scenes. So when that bill comes out, we can work with our contact representatives to get them to support it. Certainly it's likely to be a bill after we see it that our organization will support as well. And again, we think we can get folks on both sides of the aisle to get behind it, but it does help to get the momentum of voters, contacting their representatives and letting them know, hey, this is something that matters to me. This is something we'd like to see implemented. People think that transparency is something voters don't care about because we often don't have the opportunity to enact it. So people think it's not an issue that matters. But the more we can show that it does matter to voters and it matters to their pocketbook, that's how we get something like this done.
And I think, a lot of it has to do with people just accept what is, and rather than pushing back, and that's particularly frustrating because, there's a lot of reform that needs to happen in the healthcare industry, and I think about, my frustrations have usually been, well, I've identified a doctor that I want to go see, but my health insurance company doesn't cover that person. They consider them to be out of network, and will this also remedy some of those issues?
So when we talk about the way this requires the work and buy-in of both hospitals and insurance companies, that's the insurance company side, right? Your insurance company knows who's in network. Your insurance company knows how much of your deductible you've met for the year. So from that side, I think it can sort of what we envision. I'll sort of give you the overall vision. Would be a one-stop shop where you enter your insurance information, enter your zip code, and then it'll give you a list of options and the out-the-door price for the consumer for that procedure. So theoretically, if the system was implemented in a full manner, then yes, you'd see all of the providers that were in network and sort of that reflected in the prices that you would pay.
It would almost lend itself to eliminating the middleman, the health insurance company, and wouldn't that be refreshing to be able to just have the service between the patient and the doctor, as opposed to someone in the middle telling the doctor, well, you can treat this person for this thing, but you can't treat this person for this particular issue.
Absolutely. And, we have a lot of people in this country with very high deductible plans that effectively are living in a situation where they basically have no health insurance short of really catastrophic procedures. We have another segment that's self-insured and really does have to, pay those things themselves. So many Americans are really living in that reality where a $6,000 procedure is something that's going to be, out of pocket for them and something they're going to be paying off for the coming years. So as we move to HSAs and more high deductible healthcare plans, this stuff becomes even more relevant to the consumer.
Well, and I guess I would like to hope that it would force these health insurance companies to shift their models so that, as you say, that the health savings accounts, the HSAs, would be something that we would move towards for as the standard, as opposed to what I mean, as far as I can perceive, it's not something that's most common with the majority of people that are insured at this point.
Yeah, it's an innovation that happened during the Bush administration, and it really could have been a transformational force in healthcare. Unfortunately, what we saw with the implementation of Obamacare is a lot of that potential for market forces was impeded pretty severely. And that's still a big obstacle. The federal government is a huge obstacle to real meaningful healthcare reform. But we see this transparency thing as sort of a wedge that can sort of make people more cued into prices, maybe encourage the implementation of more health savings account kind of models. And again, as the market forces come into play and people can shop around, we think the consumer prices could actually go down. And there is evidence from other states like New Hampshire that have implemented a program like this in the past that prices do in fact go down for consumers when people can actually see what they're going to pay.
So this will perhaps be a catalyst for more change in the healthcare industry, and that is welcome, I would say, long overdue. Well, is there anything else that our listeners, that our listeners can do to encourage our or their legislators to support this upcoming bill? I mean, do you have? I don't know if you want to out anybody, but have you identified legislators that are friendly to this and that are going to be authors of this bill?
So we do know behind the scenes who's working on the bill. I think I better let them put that out when they come. But it's certainly someone that folks will be familiar with, and a member of the legislature has a good deal of knowledge and respect on these topics. So what was that?
I said someone who's got clout.
Exactly, someone who's got clout. Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, good. Well, I look forward to an update on this, Will. I certainly hope that you'll keep in touch with me when an issue pops up, because I think this is of interest to a lot of our listeners, and particularly if no one else, I'm interested. So no, it's a great well, it has some great promise, I guess, and I'm delighted that Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty is involved in it.